Let's go!
Do you think V-Shift will return in Street Fighter 5 as a new mechanic? No. In Street Fighter 6, assume everything in Street Fighter 6 is going to be absolutely and completely rebuilt from the ground up. Assume 0 systems, core mechanical systems, will be carrying over from this game. Street Fighter, like Mortal Kombat, likes to reinvent the wheel whenever they make a new game. So assume anything you specifically like about Street Fighter 5 is not going to be there in Street Fighter 6. They're probably remaking everything from scratch. You know what I want Street Fighter 6 to have? Well, I get this question a lot. You know what I think Street Fighter 6 should have? And I don't even know how the hell to describe this because it has, I mean, obviously good rollback netcode is a painfully clear one, but let's talk about like mechanics. What would be great for Street Fighter 6 to have? And it's hard to describe this, but I think the best way I can describe it is the same way that a lot of other developers are describing mechanics put into other games that aren't fighting games. They're calling it emergent gameplay. Factors that can immediately change and adjust the situation depending on what you do, the skill level you have, or if situations come into play, right? I want emergent mechanics in Street Fighter 5. I'm sorry, in Street Fighter 6. An example of that is the parry system in Third Strike. An example of that is actually the focus attack system in Street Fighter 4. Yes, Roman canceling is absolutely something that can definitely be considered an emergent mechanic, something that allows the pace, the control of the match to suddenly change depending on what you do with it. And usually these mechanics have a very broad window of what's possible. For example, just the act of tagging in MVCI is an emergent mechanic. Like how insane tagging what they allowed you to do with it was almost like too much freedom. I think Street Fighter needs something like that, right? If anything, the end of Street Fighter 4 really boiled down to option select covering a ton of different options for most characters. Option selects made characters what they were, which is good. But it led to a lot of control, a lot of vortex, and by that point, obviously, things like focus attack weren't the most incredibly, just almost going to use focus attack to do something crazy. Maybe you could see that in the first year of the game, but not really much after that. Street Fighter 5, the most emergent mechanic this game has is essentially V-trigger activation, but it's specifically super controlled, right? What you can V-trigger activate from, what you can get into, and largely that has led to a lot of situations in this game that people don't like. Getting stunned, right? V-trigger activate, do something stupid, get stunned. And it's led to more control. So much so that in Street Fighter 5, people practice their setups more than their combos. People practice like meaties more than what their characters can actually like output combo-wise or something like that. I think it'd be great if the game inherently gave players access to something unique or interesting that every player can do in their own way. Just in some way. Whether that's mobility, whether that's, you know, defensive mechanics, whether it's offensive mechanics, lots of fighting games have these things already. It's been kind of painfully lacking from Street Fighter at the end of Street Fighter 4, especially to now Street Fighter 5, where there's not a lot of individuality for the player. But some characters do, right? There's definitely some characters that you get a lot of individuality character to character at the end of Street Fighter 5's lifespan now. And I hope that's the lesson they learned. I hope the lesson they've learned at the end of this game is that, man, giving characters a lot of cool and interesting things that they can do to allow the player to express themselves is important. People should not be able to do the most optimal shit and figure out everything a character can do in the first like hour or two of gameplay. That's not great. Whether or not it's individual characters offering crazy systems, or if not the game itself offering mechanics that can make for every moment-to-moment action be unpredictable or crazy. What I'm asking for is a lot of risk and a lot of reward. That's what I'm asking for. I just want there to be a lot of risk and a lot of reward. Getting a stun in this game, right, and leading to like complete like comeback victory happens so often because usually the risk associated with either getting them to that stun state is not super risky. It's not. You just get it by like, oh, I'll try to shimmy here. Not really risky on my end to do that, you know? I like fighting games that have risk and reward. I just hope that there is things in the future that Capcom instills in their Street Fighter series that just allows the risk-reward option to be there. The perfect example of this game losing its risk-reward was the fact that they took away uppercuts. They took away regular reversal uppercuts. Yeah, this game really rewards jumping. Here's a wonderful example in Street Fighter V. Not many characters get huge combos off jump-ins, and you get a ton of damage off jump-ins in Street Fighter 4, right? So what happens in Street Fighter 5? Well, it's kind of hard to zone people out because projectiles are naturally worse. And what's the reward for jumping in on somebody? Well, risk reward, my risk is I'm gonna get DP'd. Shit, I lost 10 to 15%. Or I got anti-aired, 10 to 15%. All right, what's the reward if I called that they were gonna throw a projectile and I jump in? Potentially round 1. You potentially get 50% damage, 40 to 50% damage, or you win the round because the next touch leads to stun. It's crazy. Like, why do you think people are jumping around in this game like nuts? Because the risk associated with the reward is so much more in the reward that it's just worth taking the chance sometimes. And I still think Street Fighter V is actually a very fun game. I think what it's turned into now is a very fun game. It's hard to follow because there's so many characters now, right? If you want to get into it now, there's so many matchups. I just hope that there's something in the games in the future that allow for individuality, allow for enough characters and enough players to really feel themselves out with that character and do things that other people maybe can't. Whether that's combo timing, whether that's mobility, whether that's anything like that, please. Shut up, Dad! Jesus!